Good morning, kindergarten kids. Today we are learning about the International Space Station. This is a space station that lives in space that astronauts get to go up and visit. Listen closely so you don't miss a thing. Why do people go into space? People are curious to learn more about space and go there and learn about planets and stars. Scientists are also curious about how living things like planets and animals react to being in the space environment. They do many different kinds of research. What are you interested in learning more about in space? Scientists are interested in exploring whether someday people can live in space or spend long periods of time on other planets. This is an artist's idea of what some buildings on the moon might look like. What do you see? What do you notice? To learn more about what it would be like, scientists from around the world have been building the International Space Station. Try saying that with me. International Space Station. The International Space Station stays in orbit around the Earth all the time, and astronauts visit it to bring more pieces and supplies. Engineers from different countries design different parts of the International Space Station. Here's a picture of a part of the station being built in a factory all the way in Russia. Once a section is built, it's loaded onto a rocket and takes it up into Earth's orbit. Here's a picture of a rocket on its way right now. The spaceship docks or connects with the International Space Station, and astronauts attach the new section to the base of the station that's already completed. How do you think it would feel if you were the astronaut doing this spacewalk and trying to connect a new piece of the space station? Think about it. Say your message about how you'd feel in a complete sentence. Once the main sections of the International Space Station were built, scientists were ready to get to work. Some scientists are researching how plants grow in space. If we know how space affects the growth of plants, it could help us figure out how living things can best survive in space. Other astronauts take pictures with special cameras. Snap a picture now. Describe what you might see. Being in space helps scientists learn about how humans can survive without gravity. Being in space makes it hard for astronauts' bodies to stay strong. Their bones get weaker and it's easier for them to get sick. They take information such as their heart rate, that's how fast their heart is beating, from their bodies and send it all the way back down to Earth for doctors to study. The team of astronauts on the International Space Station is always changing. Humans actually can't stay in space for too long. New astronauts come aboard the International Space Station quite regularly. The astronauts who were already there update the new ones on the work that they've been doing. Because there are only a few astronauts on the International Space Station, at any time, they have to be able to do all of the jobs. Astronauts are the mechanics that repair anything that breaks on the space station. Here's a picture of an astronaut on the International Space Station. What do you notice about his body? Say the whole thing. Because there's no gravity in space, people and objects float freely. These astronauts have just gotten a delivery of fresh fruit from a visiting spaceship. What do you notice about the fruit in this picture? Remember, use a complete sentence. Any food that isn't strapped down just floats away. Astronauts eat up their fresh fruits and vegetables first, since they don't have a way to keep them fresh. And then they eat the packaged food. How do people sleep in space? What do you notice about this astronaut's bed? Why do you think he needs to be strapped in against the wall? Sometimes astronauts just relax in space. What do you see this astronaut doing for fun? Stop and think. What would you do for fun in space? If you were pretending that you were an astronaut exploring space, what is one thing you would pretend? Tell an adult what an astronaut might do during his or her day at the International Space Station. Tell an adult everything you've learned about the International Space Station. Alrighty, Kinder Kids, that is it for our lesson about the International Space Station and what those astronauts are up to while they're there. Be sure to check in with your adult and let them know all the new things you got to add to your brain. Bye!